Now let's talk about section 2 and the Aztecs. These are some of the most well-known of the Mesoamerican cultures is the Aztec people. The first Aztecs were farmers who migrated to the north to central Mexico. The Aztecs' key to power was war. They would invade areas, they would demand a tribute from the people, they took over the land, and they made them give them land and money. By the early 1400s, they were the most powerful state in Mesoamerica because they would invade, they would take over these areas, they would force them to give them land and things like that. Tenochtitlan is the capital of the Aztec Empire at this time. It's where modern-day Mexico City is. Causeways are raised roads across wet or water or wet grounds, and that's just a key term. These are kind of like bridges, but it was just raised roads over areas that was wet. And Tenochtitlan had over 200,000 people living in it. This is an artist's rendition of what they believed it used to look like. Very advanced civilization for being so far removed from other places in the world at this time. The Aztec Emperor, just like the Mayan king, was the most powerful person in the empire. Just below the emperor was the nobles, the warriors and priests, and then the merchants, artisans, lower class, had farmers and slaves and laborers and things like that, with the slaves being at the very bottom like they are in every civilization. Just like the Maya, the Aztec worshipped many gods. Aztec priests regularly made human sacrifices. The Aztecs sacrificed over 10,000 people a year and would regularly invade their neighbors to get people to sacrifice. Now, people ask me all the time, if they sacrifice 10,000 people a year, how did they not go extinct? Eventually, they were defeated, but these would be like prisoners of war. They would go to their neighboring tribes. They would kidnap people. They would take prisoners of war. They would take slaves and people like that. But think about that, 10,000 people a year, which, is roughly like 800 or something people a month being sacrificed. So when you look at 800 a month, and that's not great. But when you look at around 800 people a month, 30 days in a month, you're looking at, or let's just say that's 200 people a week. So that's a lot of people a day being sacrificed. You pretty much have people full-time just sacrificing people all of the time to sacrifice that many people. It's insane. The Aztecs also appreciated art and beauty. They studied astronomy and devised a calendar just like the Maya. They also enjoyed riddles and speeches. In the late 1400s, the Spanish arrived in the Americas. These would be the Spanish conquistadors or Spanish conquerors. One of the most well-known and the conqueror of the Aztecs was Hernan Cortés, which was the conquistador that led an expedition for gold and land. This just kind of shows his journey. He lands here at Veracruz. It wasn't that then, but where Veracruz is today. You come up through here, there, and ultimately to Tenochtitlan, and where he takes over the Aztecs. Now, this is going to be where Montezuma II, the Aztec emperor, is in control. He believed Cortés to be the god Quetzalcoatl. And according to the Aztecs, the god Quetzalcoatl said he would come in 1519. Now, Quetzalcoatl, there's a few different renditions on who he is. One believes he's a winged serpent. But it's also believed that he's a very pale-skinned god that would come through a great ship. And when Hernan Cortés came on this big boat with these weapons and he was pale-skinned, compared to them, they assumed that he was the god Quetzalcoatl. Montezuma gave them gold and other gifts, but Cortés wanted more and took the emperor prisoner. They drove out the conquistadors, but within a year they would be back. Basically, they took Montezuma prisoner. He winds up getting out. Ultimately, Montezuma winds up getting stoned to death by his own people. His people get upset about everything that's going on. They storm the capital, and he's hit with a rock, killing him. Within a year, the conquistadors come back. The Spanish are able to defeat them with the help of disease and other tribes, and the Aztecs fell in 1521. Just like in North America, disease was a contributing factor in wiping out the population of these groups of people. And that brings us to the end of section 2.